and welcome. It's me, Brandy Rose Smith, live in the Forbidden Library again, and we're on our horse that... I forget what we called the horse. It was wooden horse in Spanish, I believe. Hello everyone! Hello Exnam, hello Normal Phantom, hello Dread Excalibur, hello Noko-chan, hello Boris, hello Lurkers, hello Vodders, and welcome. I do apologize for having so much time off this month. Like 1 week in a month? 2 weeks in a month? Brady was gone for so long, I can't even remember what her accent sounds like. Push 24 hour stream. I know! I even gave you a new 24-hour stream. You even had my VR chaos again. Those were the days. The start of the VR reading when it was absolute chaos and I still didn't know what I was doing. And now I just find nice places to sit. En français? Nah. Nah, not them. Not them. I might be British, but at least I'm not French. This is a joke. For legal reasons, this is a joke. Was it from Cornwall? Oh, I got friends from Cornwall. Cornwall's a lovely place to visit. But no. I'm from the north! The northwest. Yeah, so it's been a busy week. I do apologize. Some of you have seen in the chat, Doppel started writing a fandom wiki about me. That's very lovely. But I thought, oh, when did I start streaming? I thought to myself, when did this happen? Because in my head, I think, I for some reason think that my anniversary is in September. So next month. So it is, in my head, anniversary next month. And I've been preparing things, and you know, as you do. But apparently... Apparently, my first stream was in July of 2022. I had my own stream anniversary wrong the entire time. Also, hello, 100 American bison. That's a lot of bison. Welcome. We'll fit you in somewhere. So, I'm gonna carry on pretending that my anniversary is in September. But it's not, and it's a lie. Do you have any fun news? Oh, but I am planning stuff. There's something really cute coming next month. I don't know exactly when I'm gonna do it next month. July, American Bride. 2 anniversaries, my actual anniversary and my chosen anniversary. Just, I don't know, we just like September more. I honestly have no idea where I got it. I don't know how I thought that my anniversary was in September. But also, 2022. Something cute this way. Absolutely, it's adorable. I'm so happy. I had an idea for a thing, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it cute. So I got an artist, and was like, artist, can you make this cute? And artist did, in fact, make it cute. So I'm happy. I am penning the fandom article in thy honor, whilst lending ear, though I must pursue in silence for a spell. I do bet that Pogger. No problem, you lurk. We got no problem with lurking in this chat. It's also about a year and a couple months before I showed up at. Yeah, so I had to stream for a good year before then. No, I'm not American. I'm not American, yo. It was after July 4th, okay? If you want a very specific date, it was the 26th of July. I streamed some Final Fantasy 14. And then for like 4 times. I streamed daily back then, apparently. I streamed like 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. And then had a break. And then it started getting spotty at that point. Wild. And then I finally got my model. That was back then. It was business Briny, as Void as Hasegawa has called me. No, it was Void. Void called me business Briny. Anyway, get distracted by my own nostalgia. We're not here for me. We're here for Don Quixote. And we're not even really talking about Don Quixote. So you pull back. Fuck you and your pasta checks. Fuck you. How dare you? How dare you? hello, Maxwell. We don't have the button, the reaction to the button, to the hydration button on these 3D streams. I might need to get something else. What I really wanted was when someone did hydrate for like a drop of water to go on the screen, but I was finding that really hard to do. Because I'm not that smart of a cookie sometimes. Because I'd like it that if you did a lot of hydrations, it would just look like it's raining. Were you out of jail? Did I put you out of jail? I don't think I did I? There we go. Twitch is out of jail. Okay, right. So, in this episode of Don Quixote, since it's been a wee while, let us try remember what was going on. So, we have the crazy man in the woods. That's not Don Quixote, actually. It's another crazy man in the woods. This crazy man in the woods is telling his story as to why he is a crazy man in the woods to the two people who are... Twitch is its own jail, correct. That's why a lot of people are leaving it, and I have also considered leaving it, but my 24-hour stream is doing kind of good over there, so I'm not sure I want to right now. Also, I have money in it. Once it gives me my money, maybe, but I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. It was, in fact, the story of him being in the woods is because he's an idiot, Your Honor. He had his waifu, who was not his waifu, who was going to be his waifu, but he ended up getting a really prestigious contract to work with a higher-up noble, I don't know. Then he went to go work with them. He told his noble about the waifu waiting back home, and the noble was like, oh, she sounds really pretty. What if I met her? What if we went back to your hotel so I could meet her? Totally innocent. And then he goes back. The waifu's kind of upset for some reason. I don't know why. She keeps begging for the marriage to move forward, but no. He's like, no, everything's fine. She knows nothing. He's a little suspicious, and we're both really, really stupid, even though she is like, for fuck's sake, marry me! Like that. So he goes back, and then the next thing you know, his boss is marrying his waifu, and his waifu is like, he eventually finds out, and he goes to, like, the wedding, basically. So this scene is just for the wedding, and she's basically gone, I'm going to take this dagger and shove it into myself because I'd rather do that than marry this man and not you. Because you're an idiot. Can't keep waifu, lose your laifu. Can't keep waifu, lose your waifu by the sounds of it. It is a most orderous undertaking, for I must dissect and delve into thy social media and search yet deeper within the archives of thy past streams to unearth information I require. You can, in fact, ask me questions as well if you wish. I don't mind that. I know you had to apparently dig quite far just to find my birthday. But I'm open to just answering some questions too if you just want to send them my way on Discord or something. I've never done a Q&A. But I've always never really seen the point of doing a Q&A because I'm happy to answer questions basically any time. So. I don't know, maybe I should do that at some point. An actual dedicated Q&A. You'll have to include an entire section. No! I am not bold! Shut your cake up. There will be no sections on how bold I am. Thank you. There may be a small section on how my chat bullies me about theoretically being bold, but I'm not bold. You see this lovely locks? Lovely blonde locks? Real. 100% real. No, that did sound fake, didn't it? Anyway, I think she could not have heard all these words, for I perceived that they called her away in haste, as the bridegroom was waiting. Now the night of my sorrows set in, the sun of my Oh, there needs to be a section about the chibi cannibalism. chibi cannibalism and the membership pregnancies. Obviously very important. Baldwin brain. I do not have a shiny head, I have hair! Yeah. Now the night of my sorrow set in, the sun of my happiness went down. I felt my eyes bereft of sight, and my mind of reason. I could not enter the house, nor was I capable of any movement, but reflecting how important it was that I should be present at what might take place on the occasion. I nerved myself as best I could and went in, for I knew well all the entrances and outlets, and besides, with the confusion that pervaded the house, no one took notice of me. So, without being seen, I found an opportunity of placing myself in the recess formed by a window of the hall itself, and concealed the ends and borders of 2 tapestries, from between which I could, without being seen, see all that took place in the room. And thy first live broadcast did not occur until nearly a 12-month after. The second earliest uploaded... Yes, because for a long time I was just aiming to be a booktuber rather than a VTuber. The VTubing thing didn't come until a little bit afterwards. You'll also notice that the channel, the age of this channel is a lot more than the actual... that first video. That's because this channel was... originally a Let's Play channel when I was in college? Yeah, in college. So I had about 90 subs from that when I started. So I had a little bit of leg up compared to some VTubers, but still. Is the I mean the tie. Yes, the tie, the wonderful 26 months, holy duck. Been around a while, ain't ya? And it's wonderful, thank you so much. Incredible. People have been around for ages. And it's so cool. It's so cool, you stick around, you keep on it, and you haven't gotten bored of me yet. It's great. Who could describe the agitation of heart I suffered as I stood there, the thoughts that came to me, the reflections that passed through my mind? They were such as cannot be, nor were it well they should be told. Suffice to say that the bridegroom entered the hall in his usual dress, without ornament of any kind. As groomsman, he had with him a cousin of Lucinda's, and except the servants of the house, there was no one else in the chamber. Soon afterwards, Lucinda came out from an antechamber, attended by her mother and 2 of her damsels, arrayed and adorned as became her rank and beauty, and in full festival and ceremonial attire. My anxiety and distraction did not allow me to observe or notice particularly what she wore. I could only perceive the colours, which were crimson and white, and the glitter of the gems and jewels on her headdress and apparel, surpassed by the rare beauty of her lovely auburn hair that, vying with the precious stones and the light of the 4 torches that stood in the hall with a brighter gleam than all. O memory, mortal foe of my peace! Why bring before me now the incomparable beauty of that adorned enemy of mine? Were it not better, cruel memory, to remind me and recall that she then did that stirred by a wrong so glaring I may seek, if not vengeance now, at least to rid myself of life? Be not weary, sirs, of listening to these digressions. My sorrow is not one of those that can or should be told tersely and brief, for to me each incident seems to call for many words. I have so many feelings, my good sirs. Will you be my therapists? To this the curate replied that not only were they not weary of listening to him, but that the details he mentioned interested them greatly, being of a kind by no means to be omitted and deserving of the same attention as the main story. To proceed, then, continued Cardinal. All being assembled in the hall, the priests of the parish came in, and as he took the pair by the hand to perform the requisite ceremony, at the words, "Will you, Signora Lucinda, take Sir Don Fernando here present, for your lawful husband, as the Holy Mother Church ordains?" I thrust my head and neck out from between the tapestries, and with eager ears and throbbing heart set myself to listen to Lucinda's answer, awaiting in her reply the sentence of death or the grant of life. Oh, that I had but dared at that moment to rush forward, crying aloud, "Lucinda, Lucinda, have a care what thou dost. Remember what thou owest me. Bethink thee thou art mine, and canst not be another's. Reflect that thy utterance of yes, and the end of my life will come at the same instant. O treacherous Don Fernando, robber of my glory, death of my life, what seekest thou? Remember that thou canst not, as a Christian, attain the object of thy wishes, for Lucinda is my bride, and I am her husband. Fool that I am! Now that I am far away and out of danger, I say I should have done what I did not do. Now that I have allowed my precious treasure to be robbed from me, I curse the robber on whom I might have taken vengeance, had I as much heart for it as I have for bewailing my fate. In short, as I was then a coward and a fool, little wonder is it if I am now dying, shame-stricken, remorseful, and mad. Ugh. I can only dream of being so dramatic. The priest stood waiting for the answer of Lucinda, who for a long time withheld it. She was waiting for you! She was waiting for you to jump out! And just as I thought, she was taking out the dagger to save her honour. All that, or struggling for words to make some declaration of the truth on my behalf, I heard her say in a faint and feeble voice, "I will." Don Fernando said the same, and giving her the ring, they stood linked by a knot that could never be loosened. The bridegroom then approached to embrace his bride, and she, pressing her hand upon her heart, fell fainting in her mother's arms. It only remains now for me to tell you the state I was in, when, in that consent, I saw all my hopes mocked. The words and promises of Lucinda proved falsehoods. You think she had any right or that she could argue in this situation? No! So the woman. And her daddy said so. If you just married her earlier, it wouldn't have happened. You're an idiot. He's an idiot. He's an idiot. And the recovery of the prize that I had instantly lost, rendered impossible forever. I stood stupefied, wholly abandoned. It seemed by heaven declared the enemy of the earth that bore me, the air refusing me breath for my sighs, the water moisture for my tears. It was only the fire that gathered strength, so that my whole frame glowed with rage and jealousy. They were all thrown into confusion by Lucinda's fainting, and as her mother was unlacing her to give her a sealed paper was discovered in her bosom, which Don Fernando seized at once, and began to read by the light of one of the torches. As soon as he had read it, he seated himself in a chair, leaning his cheek on his hand, in an attitude of one deep in thought, without taking any part in the efforts that were being made to recover his bride from her fainting fit. Seeing all the household in confusion, I ventured to come out, regardless whether I was seen or not, and determined, if I were to do some frenzied deed that would prove to all the world the righteous indignation of my breast in the punishment of the treasonous Don Fernando, and even that of the fickle, fainting traitress. Fuck you, she tried. Other people, dating isn't like what it used to be me. Good! Yes! Good! But in my fate doubtless reserving for me for greater sorrows, if such be, so ordered that just then I had enough to spare of that reason which has since been wanting to me, and so, without seeking to take vengeance on my greatest enemies, which might have been easily taken, as all thought of me was so far from their minds, I resolved to take it upon myself, and upon myself to inflict the pain they deserved, perhaps with even greater severity than I should have dealt out to them, had I then slain them. For sudden pain is soon over, but that which is protracted by tortures is ever slaying without ending life. In a word, I quitted the house and reached that of the man with whom I had left my mule. I made him saddle it for me, mounted without bidding him farewell, and rode out of the city like another lot, not daring to turn my head or look back upon it. And when I found myself alone in the open country, screened by the darkness of the night, and tempted by the stillness to give vent to my grief without apprehension or fear of being heard or seen, then I broke silence, and lifted up my voice in maledictions upon Lucinda and Don Fernando, as if I could thus avenge the wrong they had done me. I called her cruel, ungrateful, false, thankless, but above all covetous, since the wealth of my enemy had blinded the eyes of her affections. It had not! You're a fucking idiot! Ah! I hate this bit. This man. I hope this man... bad things. I wish bad things on this man. And it turned from me to transfer it to one to whom fortune had been more generous and liberal. And yet, in the midst of this outburst of excretion, and upbraiding, I found excuses for her, saying it was no wonder that a young girl in the seclusion of her parents' house, trained and schooled to obey them always, should have been ready to yield to their wishes when the offer... See! He knows! He knows! To their wishes when they offered her for a husband, a gentleman of such distinction, wealth, and noble birth, that if she had refused to accept him, she would have been thought out of her... Yes, this is exactly what I'm saying! Finally, there's some sense to this. Congrats, he gets 1 point. He's in minus 100, but he's got 1 point. Minus 99. Or to have set her affection elsewhere, a suspicion injurious to her fair name and fame. But then again, I said, she had declared I was her husband. They would have seen that in choosing me she had not chosen so ill, but that they might excuse her, For before Don Fernando had made his offer, they themselves could not have desired, if their desires had been ruled by reason, a more eligible husband for their daughter than I was. Then you should have fucking jumped on it, you dick. Broken clock, he's back to being wrong again. And she, before taking that last fatal step of giving her hand, might easily have said that I already given her mine, for I should have come forward to support any assertion of hers to that effect. Oh, well, she couldn't stand up for me, so how could I expect her to be standing up for her? For fuck's sake. Oh, this is terrible. But then, is the story good that I'm getting this passionate about it? Or is it just my modern sensibilities getting a big clash? I don't know. In short, I came to the conclusion that feeble love, little reflection, great ambition, and a craving for rank had made her forget the words with which she had deceived. She didn't! I don't like reading this. Encouraged and supported by my firm hopes and honourable passion. You're the one who chose your fucking career over this, bro. I've always been quite bad with satire, I'm not gonna lie. A little bit terrible with satire. Because he's a stupid head. In the trash with this man. We've got a lot of it though. He won't stop talking. He just won't stop. This guy is basically the Don Quixote, but career-minded instead of an evil genie, bro. He's an incel. It's just this forest happens to be his mother's basement. That's basically what's happened. Except slightly different, because it's not like the woman spurred him for like in her power. Sounds like she dodged a bullet though. Now I'm thinking about. At least Don Fernando's rich. He might get bored of her. Hopefully he's not abusive, but maybe he'll get bored of her and he'll just move on and she'll just get to keep his money. I don't know. I hope Lucinda has a lovely life, no matter what happens. So. I journeyed onward for the remainder of the night, and by daybreak I reached one of the passes of these mountains, among which I wandered for 3 days more without taking any path or road, until I came to some meadows lying on I know not which side of the mountains, and there I inquired of some herdsmen in what direction the most rugged part of the range lay. They told me that it was in this quarter, and I at once directed my course hither, intending to end my life here. But as I was making my way among these crags, my mule dropped dead through fatigue and hunger, or, as I think more likely, in order to have done with such a worthless burden as it bore me. Ah, you died just to get rid of me? Oh, doth the world revolve around Don Cardino. I was left on foot, worn out, famishing, without anyone to help me or any thought of seeking help. And so thus I lay stretched on the ground, how long I know not, after which I rose up, free from hunger, and found beside me some goatherds, who no doubt were the persons who had relieved me of my need, for they told me how they had found me, and how I had been uttering ravings that showed plainly I had lost my reason. And since then I am conscious that I am not always in full possession of it. Hello, Double! I merely desire to ascertain whether thou art an independent VTuber. I am in fact an independent VTuber. For I wish to acquire if thou art not affiliated with some company in which thou and Lady Hezekiah are secretly engaged. No, no company. There is the Vtuber group that Maiden put together called Staccato, which isn't a company, it's just a small group that we sometimes do collabs and that's it, really. But no, I am not affiliated with any company. On the company of me! Me, myself, and I. But yeah, 100% independent. But at times so deranged and crazed that I do 1,000 mad things, tearing my clothes, crying aloud in these solitudes, cursing my fate, and idly calling on the dear name of her who is my enemy, and only seeking to end my life in lamentation. And when I recover my senses, I find myself so exhausted and weary that I can scarcely move. Most commonly, my dwelling is the hollow of a cork tree large enough to shelter this miserable body. The herdsmen and goatherds who frequent these mountains, moved by compassion, furnish me with food, leaving it by the wayside or on the rocks, where they think I may perhaps pass and find it. And so, even though I may be then out of my senses, the wants of nature teach me what is required to sustain me, and make me crave it and eager to take it. At other times, so they tell me, when they find me in a rational mood, I sally out upon the road. Though they would gladly give it to me, I snatch food by force from the shepherds, bringing it from the village to their huts. Thus do pass the wretched life that remains to me, until it be heaven's will to bring it to a close, or so to order my memory that I no longer recollect the beauty and treachery of Lucinda, or the wrong done to me by Don Fernando. For it will do this without depriving me of life. I will turn my thoughts into some better channel. If not, I can only implore it to have full mercy on my soul. For in myself I feel no power or strength to release my body from this strait in which I have, of my own accord, chosen to place it. Ain't no company big enough to contend with me. Brandy is actually affiliated with MI6 as part of their international broadcasting division, creating soft power globally without charisma. Boris, you're not supposed to tell anyone. I only told mods that. Shh. God damn it. You're blowing my cover. Such stirs is the dismissal story of my misfortune. Say, if it be one that can be told with less emotion than I have seen in me. And do not trouble yourselves with urging or pressing upon me what reason suggests as likely to serve for my relief. For it will avail me as much as the medicine prescribed by a wise physician avails the sick man who will not take it. I have no wish for health without Lucinda, and since it is her pleasure to be another's when she is or should be mine, let it be mine to be a prey to misery when I might have enjoyed happiness. She by her fickleness strove to make my ruin irretrievable. I will strive to gratify her wishes by seeking destruction, and it will show generations to come that I alone was deprived of which all others in misfortune have a superabundance. For to them the impossibility of being consoled itself a consolation, while to me it is the cause of great sorrows and suffering. For I think that even in death there will be not an end of them. What a dramatic twat. Here Cardinal thought to choose his long discourse, brought to a close his long discourse and story as full of misfortune. Nope, no message. There was no message. As it was of love, but just as the curate was going to address some words of comfort to him, he was stopped by a voice that reached his ear, saying in melancholy tones what will be told in the fourth part of this narrative next time on Don Quixote. For at this point, the staid and sacrilegious historian Cid Hamet Benengeli brought the third to a conclusion. Chapter 28, in which treats of the strange and delightful adventure that befell the curate and the barber in the same sierra. Happy and fortunate were the times when that most daring knight, Don Quixote of La Mancha, was sent into the world. For by reason of his having formed a resolution so honourable as that of seeking to retrieve and restore to the world the long-lost and almost defunct order of knight-errantry. Almost defunct. Not quite. Almost. We now enjoy, in this age of ours, so poor in light entertainment, not only the charm of his veracious history, but also the tales and less episodes contained in it, which are, in a measure, no less pleasing, ingenious, and truthful than the history itself, which, resuming its thread, carded, spun, and wound, relates that just as the curate was going to offer consolation to Cardinal, he was interrupted by a voice that fell upon his ear, saying plaintive tones, "O God! Is it possible that I have found a place that may serve as a secret grave for the weary load of this body that I support so unwillingly? If the solitude of these mountains promise deceives me not, it is so. Ah, woe is me! How much more grateful to my mind will be the society of these rocks and brakes that permit me to complain of my misfortune to heaven, than that of any human being, for there is none on this earth to look for counsel in doubt, comfort in sorrow, or relief in distress." All this was heard distinctly by the curate and those with him, and as it seemed to them to be uttered close by, as indeed it was, they got up to look for the speaker, and before they had gone 20 paces they discovered behind a rock, seated at the foot of an ash tree, a youth in the dress of a peasant, whose face they were unable at the moment to see, as he was leaning forward, bathing his feet in the brook that flowed past. They approached so silently that he did not perceive them, being fully occupied in bathing his feet, which were so fair that they looked like two pieces of shining crystal brought forth among the other stones of the brook. The whiteness and beauty of those feet struck them with surprise, for they did not seem to have been made to crush clods or to follow the plough, and the oxen hooves of their owner's dress suggested, and so they had not been noticed. The curate, who was in front, made a sign to the other two to conceal themselves behind some fragment of rock that lay there, which they did, observing closely what the youth was about. He had on a loose, double-skirted dark brown jacket, bound tightly to his body, with a white cloth. He wore besides breeches and gaiters of brown cloth, and on his head a brown montera. And he had the gaiters turned up as far as the middle of the leg, which verily seemed to be of pure alabaster. I found myself unable to locate your artisan on VJ and Vanilla Star. I could only discover your two-dimensional rigger. Let me see if I can find a better link for you, because obviously she deserves all the credit for my beautiful, beautiful model. Should be, if I can go into like my orders or like my requests, I should be able to find it in. Ah, she's changed her name. She's done that a few times now. She's hard to keep track of, this girl. Apparently her account's been suspended? What the heck? Sorry, what's that? Oh, lordy. 1 minute. What? So, I have the... Apparently she went by Lumin Star now, but... Like I said, the VGen has been thingied. Little Timmy, that is not relevant to the stream. Please keep it relevant to the stream, but welcome. I'll throw out that little link there. That is the VGen it came from, but like I said, the VGen's been suspended apparently. I wouldn't even know how to get in contact with her now, which might be awkward if I want a model update, but hey ho, that is future me's problem. So who is this youth? As soon as he had done bathing his beautiful feet, he wiped them with a towel he took from under the montera, on taking off which he had raised his face, and those who were watching him had an opportunity of seeing a beauty so exquisite that Cardinal said to the curator in a whimper, "As this is not Lucinda, it is no human creature, but a divine being." Is it Lucinda? That would be so funny. The youth then took off the montera, and, shaking his head from side to side, there broke loose spread out a mass of hair that the beams of the sun might have envied. I knew there was going to be comments like that. By this they knew that what had seemed a peasant was a lovely woman, nay, the most beautiful woman the eyes of the two of them had ever beheld, or even Cardinal's, if they had not seen and known Lucinda, for he afterwards declared that only the beauty of Lucinda could compare with this. The long auburn tresses not only covered her shoulders, but such was their length and abundance, concealed her all around beneath their masses, and that except the feet, nothing of her form was visible. She now used her hands as a comb, and if her feet had seemed like bits of crystal in the water, her hands looked like pieces of driven snow among her locks, all which increased not only the admiration of these three beholders, but their anxiety to learn who she was. With this object they resolved to show themselves, and at the stir they made in getting upon their feet, the fair damsel raised her head, and parting her hair from before her eyes with both hands, she looked to see who had made the noise. And the instant she perceived them, she started to her feet, and without waiting to put on her shoes or gather up her hair, hastily snatched up a bundle, as though of clothes that she had beside her, and scared and alarmed, endeavoured to take flight. But before she had gone 6 paces, she fell to the ground, her delicate feet being able to bear the roughness of the stones, seeing which the three hastened towards her, and the curate addressed her first and said, "Stay, Senora, how dost thou address thy viewers or thy devoted followers? They are my Brionicles. They are the bestest of the devoted followers, the Brionicles. They have masks and everything." They get to pick what colour mask they wear, because obviously we have them. Yeah, my Brionicles. "Stay, Senora, whoever you may be, for those whom you see here only desire to be of service to you. You have no need to attempt a flight so heedless, for neither can your feet bear it, nor can we allow it." Taken by surprise and bewildered, she made no reply to these words. They, however, came towards her, and the curate, taking her hand, went on to say, "What your dress would hide, Senora, is made known to us by your hair, and clear proof that it can be no trifling cause that has disguised your beauty in a garb so unworthy of it, and sent it into solitudes like these, where we have had the good fortune to find you." The curate kind of did say stop running because you can't escape. And honestly, even when they're coming with good intentions, she's like on the floor and these three unknown men are coming towards her in the middle of a forest. Where's the bear? We need a bear. We need a bear right now. Where was it? Good intention? No. "Into the solitudes where we had the good fortune to find you, if not to relieve your distress, at least to offer you comfort, for no distress, so long as life lasts, can be so oppressive or reach such height as to make the sufferer refuse to listen to comfort offered with good intention. Hello, Tyler, welcome. Happy Sunday indeed. Tomorrow is the last day of August. This month has been, like, so long and so short, because, like, the first 2 days were MegaCon, and I keep thinking to myself, damn, we're still in the same month as when I went to MegaCon. But it's nearly over. But it's also been so busy. It's scary. It's weird. And so, senora or senor, whatever you prefer to be. Oh, how progressive. Dismiss the fears that our appearance will cause you and make us acquainted with your good or evil fortunes. For from all of us together, for each one of us will receive sympathy in your trouble. Sympathy in your trouble. Yes, you will receive sympathy in your trouble. While the curate was speaking, the disguised damsel stood as if spellbound, looking at them without opening her lips or uttering a word, just like a village rustic to whom something strange that he has never seen has been suddenly shown. But on the curate addressing some further words to the same effect to her, sighing deeply, she broke the silence and said, "Since the solitude of these mountains has been unable to conceal me, and the escape of my dishevelled tresses will not allow my tongue to deal in falsehoods, it would be idle for me now to make any further pretence of what. If you were to believe me, you would believe me out of courtesy than for any other reason. This being so, I say thank you, sirs, for the offer you have made me, which places me under the obligation of complying with the request you have made of me, though I fear the account shall give you of my misfortunes will excite you as much concern as compassion, for you will be unable to suggest anything to remedy them, or any consolation to alleviate them. However, that my honour may not be left a matter of doubt in your minds, I will now that you have discovered me to be a woman, and see that I am young, alone, in this dress, things that, taken together or separately, would be enough to destroy any good name, I feel bound to tell you what I would willingly keep secret if I could. All this she was now seemed to be a lovely woman delivered without hesitation, with so much ease, and in so sweet a voice, that they were not less charmed by her intelligence than her beauty. And as they again repeated their offers and entreaties to fulfill her promise, she, without further pressing, first modestly covered her feet, and gathering up her hair, seated herself on a stone with the three placed around her, and after an effort to restrain some tears that came to her eyes, in a clear and steady voice, she began her story. In this Andalusia, there is a town from which a duke takes a title, which makes him one of those that are so-called grandees of Spain. This nobleman has 2 sons. The elder, heir to his dignity and apparently to his good qualities, the younger, the heir to I know not what, unless it be the treachery of Validio and the falsehood of Ganaleon. My parents are his lord's vassals, lowly in origin, but so wealthy that if birth had conferred as much on them as fortune, they would have had nothing left to desire, nor should I have had reason to fear trouble like that in which I find myself now. For it may be that my ill fortune came of theirs, in not having been born nobly. Nobly born. It is true they are not so low that they have any reason to be ashamed of their condition, but neither are they so high as to be removed from my mind the impression that mayhap comes of their humble birth. They are, in short, peasants, plain, homely people, without any trait of disreputable blood, and, as the saying says, old rusty Christians, but so rich that by their wealth and free-handed way of life they are coming by degrees to be considered gentlefolk by birth, and even by position, though the wealth and nobility they thought most of was having me for their daughter, and as they have no other child to make their heir, and are affectionate parents, I was one of the most indulged daughters that ever parents indulged. I was the mirror in which they beheld themselves, the staff of their old age, and the object in which, with submission to heaven, all their wishes centred, and mine were in accordance with theirs, for I knew their worth, and as I was mistress of their hearts, so I was also of their possessions, though through me they engaged or dismissed their servants. Through my hands passed the accounts and returns of what was sown and reaped, the oil mills, the wine presses, the count of the flocks and herds, the beehives, all in short, that a rich farmer like my father has or can have, I had under my care, and I acted as steward and mistress, with an assiduity on my part, and satisfaction on theirs, that I cannot well describe to you. The leisure hours left me after I had given the requisite orders to the head shepherds, overseers, and other labourers.
I passed in such employments as are not only allowable but necessary for young girls, those the needle, embroidery cushion, and spinning wheel usually afford, and if to refresh my mind I quitted them for a while, I found recreation in reading some devotional book or playing the harp, for experience taught me that music soothes the troubled mind, and relieves weariness of spirit. Such was the life I led in my parents' house, and if I depicted it thus minutely, it is not out of ostentation, or to let you know that I am rich. The auto-translate for chat is kind of hilarious sometimes. When you guys say hoi hoi, it does automatically change it to hello and stuff like that as well. It's really weird sometimes. I have fallen from the happy condition I have described to the misery I am in at present. In truth, that while I was leading this busy life in a retirement that might compare with that of a monastery, and unseen as I thought by any except servants of the house, for when I went to mass, it was so early in the morning that I was so closely attended by my mother and the women of the household, and so thickly veiled, and so shy that my eyes scarcely saw more than the ground I trod. In spite of all this, the eyes of love or idleness, more probably speaking, that the lynxes cannot rival, discovered me, with the help of the assiduity of Don Fernando, for that is the name of the younger son of the Duke I told of. I thought so. So if this isn't Lucinda, this is the other woman that Don Fernando spurred. The peasant girl he was going to give up everything for, but then, like, gave up as soon as he had her because he only liked shiny new things. The moment the speaker mentioned the name of Don Fernando, Cardinal changed colour and broke into a sweat, with such signs of emotion that the curate and the barber who observed it feared that one of his mad fits, which they heard attacked him sometimes, was coming upon him. But Cardinal showed no further agitation and remained quiet, regarding the peasant girl, who fixed with fixed attention, for he began to suspect who she was. She, however, without noticing the excitement of Cardinal, continued her story, went on to say, and they had hardly discovered me, when he, as he owned afterwards, he was smitten with a violent love for me, as the manner in which it displayed itself plainly showed. But to shorten the long recital of my woes, I will pass over in silence all the artifices employed by Don Fernando for declaring his passion for me. He bribed all the household. He gave and offered gifts and presents to my parents every day, was like a holiday or a merry-making in our street. By night, no one could sleep for the music. The love letters that used to come to my hand, no one knew how, were innumerable, full of tender pleadings and pledges, contained more promises and oaths than there were letters in them, all which not only did not soften me, but hardened my heart against him, as if he had been my mortal enemy, and as if everything he did to make me yield were done with the opposite intention. Not that the high-bred bearing of Don Fernando was disagreeable to me. Not that he wasn't pretty, but... or that I found his inopportunities wearisome. for it gave me a certain sort of satisfaction to find myself so sought and prized by a gentleman of such distinction, and I was not displeased at seeing my praises in his letters, for however ugly we women may be, it seems to me it always pleases us to hear ourselves called beautiful. This is not a woman thing. This is not a woman thing. We need to call the men beautiful too. Handsome. I suppose you'd probably prefer handsome, but my fiancé is beautiful, just so you all know. But that my own sense of right was opposed to this, as well as the repeated advice from my parents, who now very plainly perceived Don Fernando's purpose, for he cared very little if all the world knew it. They told me they trusted and confided their honour and good name to my virtue and rectitude alone, and bade me consider disparity between Don Fernando and myself, for which I might conclude that his intention, whatever he may say to the contrary, had for their aim his own pleasure rather than my advantage. And if I were at all desirous of opposing an obstacle to his unreasonable suit, they were ready, they said, to marry me at once to anyone I preferred, either among the leading people of our own town, or of any of those in the neighbourhood, for with their wealth and my good name, a match might be good for in any quarter. This offer and their sound advice strengthened my resolution, and I never gave Don Fernando a word in reply that could hold out to him any hope of success, however remote. This girl's a smart cookie. And her parents are behind her! All this caution of mine, which he must have taken for coyness, had apparently the effect of increasing his wanton appetite. For that is the name I give to his passion for me. Had it been what he declared it to be, you would not know of it now, because there would have been no occasion to tell you of it. At length he learned that my parents were contemplating marriage for me in order to put an end to his hopes of obtaining possession of me, or at least to secure additional protectors to watch over me. And this intelligence or suspicion made him act as you shall hear. One night I was in my chamber with no other companion than a damsel who waited on me, with the doors carefully locked, lest my honour should be imperilled through any carelessness. I know not, nor can conceive how it happened, but with all this seclusion and these precautions, and in the solitude and silence of my retirement, I found him standing before me, a vision that so astounded me that it deprived my eyes of sight, and my tongue of speech. I had no power to utter a cry, nor, I think, did he give me time to utter one, as he immediately approached me, and taking me in his arms, for overwhelmed as I was powerless, I say, to help myself, he began to make such professions to me that I know not how falsehood could had the power of dressing them up so like truth. And the traitor contrived that his tears should vouch for his words, and his sighs for his sincerity. I, a poor creature alone, ill-versed among my people in cases such as this, began I know not how to think all these lying protestations true, though without being moved by his sighs and tears to anything more than pure compassion. And so, as the first feeling of bewilderment passed away, I began in some degree to recover myself. I said to him with more courage than I thought I could have possessed, if, as I am now in your arms, Signor, I were in the claws of a fierce lion, and my deliverance could be procured by doing or saying anything to the prejudge of my honour. It would be no no more be in my power to do it or say it, than it would be possible that what was should have not been. So then, if you hold my body clasped in your arms, I hold my soul secure by virtuous intentions, very different from yours, as you will see if you attempt to carry them into effect by force. I am your vassal, but I am not your slave. Your nobility neither has nor should have any right to dishonour or degrade my humble birth. And low-born peasant as I am, I have my self-respect, as much as you, a lord and gentleman. With me your violence will be no purpose, your wealth will have no weight, your words will have no power to deceive me, nor your sighs or tears to soften me. Were I to see any of the things I speak of in him whom my parents gave me as a husband, his will should be mine, and mine should be bounded by his, and my honour being preserved, even though my inclinations would willingly yield to him what you, Signor, would now attain by force. And this I say lest you should suppose that any but my lawful husband shall ever win anything of me. Damn, she told him! She told him. Bitch, I might be sheltered, but I ain't naive. Fuck yes. If that, said this disloyal gentleman, be the only scruple you feel, fairest Dorothea, for that is the name of this unhappy being, see here I give you my hand to be yours, and let heaven, from which nothing is hid, and this image of Our Lady you have here, be witness of this pledge. Even this picture's kind of creepy. This poor girl. I don't like it. I don't like it. Poor girl. She fought the good fight there, though. Proud of her. When Cardinal heard her say that she was called Dorothea, he showed fresh agitation and felt convinced of the truth of his former suspicion. But he was unwilling to interrupt the story and wished to hear the end of what he already all but knew. So he merely said, "What, is Dorothy your name, Senora? I have heard of another of the same name, who can perhaps match your misfortunes. But proceed. By and by I may tell you something that will astonish you as much as it will excite your compassion." Dorothy was struck by Cardinal's words, as well as by his strange and miserable attire, and begged him, if he knew anything concerning her, to tell her at once, for if fortune had left her any blessing, it was courage to bear whatever calamity might fall upon her, as she felt sure that none could reach her capable of increasing any degree what she endured already. "I would not let the occasion pass, Signora," replied Cardinal, "of telling you what I think, if what I suspect were the truth, but so far there has been no opportunity, nor is it of any importance to you to know it." I know things about you, but finish your story, but tell me now. No. "Be it as it may," replied Dorothea, "what happened in my story was that Don Fernando, taking an image that stood in the chamber, placed it as a witness of our betrothal, and, with the most binding words and extravagant oaths, gave me his promise to become my husband. Though before he had made an end of pledging himself, I bade him consider well what he was doing, and think of the anger his father would feel at seeing him married to a peasant girl, and one of his vassals. I told him not to let my beauty, such as it was, blind him, for that was not enough to furnish an excuse for his transgressions, And if, in the love he bore me, he wished to do me any kindness, it would be to leave my lot to follow its course, at the level my condition required. For marriages so unequal never brought happiness, nor did they continue long to afford the enjoyment they began with. She embodies the quote from Mulan. No matter how the wind howls, the mountain cannot bow to it. Yes, look at her go. Just like, you're being a fucking idiot. This won't be a good one. Look at her. A marriage so unequal never brought happiness to anyone. It's true. It's true. All this that I have now repeated I said to him, and much more which I cannot recollect. But it had no effect in inducing him to forego his purpose. He who has no intention of paying does not trouble himself about difficulties when he is striking the bargain. At the same time I argued the matter briefly in my own mind, saying to myself I shall not be the first who has risen through marriage from a lowly to a lofty station, nor will Don Fernando be the first whom beauty or, as it is more likely, a blind attraction has led to mate himself below his rank. Then, since I am introducing no new usage or practice, I may as well avail myself of the honour that chance offers me. For even though his inclination for me should not outlast the attainment of his wishes, I shall be, after all, his wife before God, and if I strive to repel him by scorn, I can see that fair means failing. He is in a mood to use force, and I shall be left dishonoured and without any means of proving my innocence to those who cannot know how innocently I have come to be in this position. For what arguments could persuade my parents that this gentleman entered my chamber without my consent? Good lord! But then that's kind of the thought process you have to go through if you're in this situation as a man in your chamber. You don't know what to do. He's kind of so stronger than you and literally is restraining you. What are you going to do about it? I'm surprised. She has iron balls to be in this position and still be arguing with him, honestly. All these questions and answers passed through my mind in a moment, but the oaths of Don Fernando, the witnesses he appealed to, the tears he shed, and lastly the charms of his person and his high-bred grace, which accompanied by such signs of genuine love, might well have conquered a heart even more free and coy than mine. These were the things that more than all began to influence me and led me unawares to my ruin. I called my waiting maid to me, that there might be a witness on earth besides those in heaven, and again Don Fernando renewed and repeated his oaths, invoked as witness fresh saints in addition to the former ones, called down upon himself 1,000 curses hereafter should he fail to keep his promise, shed more tears, redoubled his sighs, and pressed me closer in his arms, from which he had never allowed me to escape. And so I was left by my maid, cease to be one, and he became a traitor and a perjured man. The day which followed the night of my misfortune did not come so quickly, I imagine, as Don Fernando wished. For when desire has attained its object, the greatest pleasure is to fly from the scene of pleasure. Sir, I say so because Don Fernando made all haste to leave me, and by the adroitness of the maid, who was indeed the one who admitted him, gained the street before daybreak. But on taking leave of me, he told me, though not with as much earnestness as fervour as when he came, that I might rest assured of his faith and the sanctity and sincerity of his oaths. And to confirm his word, he drew a rich ring off his finger and placed it upon mine. He then took his departure, and I was left. I know not whether sorrowful or happy. All I can say, I was left agitated and troubled in mind and almost bewildered by what had taken place, and I had not the spirit, nor else did not occur to me to chide my maid for the treachery she had been guilty of in concealing Don Fernando in my chambers, for as yet I was unable to make up my mind whether what had befallen me was for good or evil. Yeah, lady does need a new maid. She's been absolutely treachery, 100% treachery. But you have to remember, Don Fernando's been like working the people around her for a while at this point. So he's been like bribing housemaids and all sorts at that point. It's almost not too surprising that he's managed to get in doing that. I hope she wins by blowing him up. Blowing up her mind. Or she sends him to the Shadow Realm, destroying his pathetic deck. It only has pathetic cards, Yugi. Absolutely needs to be fired. I told Don Fernando at parting that as I was now his, he might see me on other nights in the same way, until it should be his pleasure to let the matter become known. But, except the following night, he came no more, nor for more than a month could I catch a glimpse of him in the street or in church, while I wearied myself with watching for one, although I knew he was in the town, and almost every day went out hunting, a pastime he was very fond of. I remember well how I began to doubt as they went by, and even to lose confidence in the faith of Don Fernando, and I remember too how my maid heard those words in reproof of her audacity that she had not heard before, and how I was forced to put a constraint on my tears and on the expression of my countenance, not to give my parents cause to ask me why I was so melancholy, and drive me to invent falsehoods in reply. But all this was suddenly brought to an end, for the time came when all such considerations were disregarded, and there was no further questions of honour, when my patience gave way in the street, and the secret of my heart became abroad. The reason was that a few days later it was reported that in the town that Don Fernando had been married in a neighbouring city to a maiden of rare beauty, the daughter of parents of distinguished position, though not so rich that her portion would entitle her to look for so brilliant a match. It was said, too, that her name was Lucinda, and that at the betrothal some strange things had happened. Cardinal heard the name of Lucinda, but he only shrugged his shoulders, bit his lips, bent his brows, and before long 2 streams of tears escaped his eyes. Dorothea, however, did not interrupt her story, but went on in these words. This sad intelligence reached my ears, and instead of being struck with a chill, with such wrath and fury did my heart burn, I scarcely restrained myself from rushing out into the streets, crying aloud, proclaiming openly the perfidy and treachery of which I was the victim. But this transport of rage was for the time checked by a resolution I formed, to be carried out the same night, and that was to assume this dress, which I got from a servant of my father's, one of the Zaggles, as they are called in farmhouses, to whom I confided the whole of my misfortune, and whom I entered to accompany me to the city where I heard my enemy was. He, though he remonstrated with me for my boldness, and condemned my resolution, when he saw me bent upon my purpose, offered to bear me company, as he said, to the end of the world. I at once packed up in a linen pillowcase a woman's dress, and some jewels and money to provide for emergencies. And in the silence of the night, without letting my treacherous maid know, I sallied forth from the house, accompanied by my servant, and abundant anxieties, and on foot set out for the city, but borne as it were on wings by my eagerness to reach it, if not to prevent what I presumed to be already done, at least to call upon Don Fernando to tell me with what conscience he had done it. I reached my destination in 2 days and a half, and on entering the city inquired for the house of Lucinda's parents. The first person I asked gave me more in reply than I sought to know. He showed me the house and told me that all had occurred at the betrothal of the daughter of the family, an affair of such notoriety in the city that he was the talk of every knot of idlers in the street. He said that on the night of Don Fernando's betrothal with Lucinda, as soon as she consented to be his bride by saying yes, she was taken with a sudden fainting fit, and that on the bridegroom approaching to unlace the bosom of her dress to give her air, he found a paper in her own handwriting, in which she said and declared that she could not be Don Fernando's bride, because she was already Cardino's, who, according to the man's account, was a gentleman of distinction of the same city, and that if she had accepted Don Fernando it was only in obedience to her parents. In short, he said, the words of the paper made it clear that she meant to kill herself on the completion of the betrothal, and gave her reasons for putting an end to herself, all which was confirmed. It was said by a dagger they found somewhere in her clothes. On seeing this, Don Fernando, persuaded that Lucinda had been befooled, slighted and trifled with him, assailed her before she had recovered from her swoon, and tried to stab her with the dagger that had been found, and would have succeeded had her parents and those who were present not prevented him. Ha! Get fucked! It was said, moreover, that Don Fernando went away at once, and that Lucinda did not recover from her protestation the next day. Protestation. When she told her parents how she was really the bride of that Cardinal I have mentioned, I learned besides that Cardinal, according to the report, had been present at the betrothal, and that upon seeing her betrothed, contrary to his expectation, he had quitted the city in despair, leaving behind him a letter declaring the wrong Lucinda had done to him, and his intention of going where no one should ever see him again. All this was a matter of notoriety in the city, and everyone spoke of it, especially when it became known that Lucinda was missing from her father's house, and from the city, for she was not to be found anywhere, to the distraction of her parents, who knew not what steps to take to recover her. What I learned revived my hopes, and I was better pleased not to have found Don Fernando than to find him married. For it seemed to me that the door was not yet entirely shut upon relief in my case, and I thought perhaps Heaven had put this impediment in the way of the second marriage, to lead him to recognize his obligations under the former one, and reflect that as a Christian he was bound to consider his soul above all human objects. All this passed through my mind, and I strove to comfort myself without comfort, indulging in faint and distant hopes of cherishing that life that I now abhor. But while I was in the city, uncertain what to do, as I could not find Don Fernando, I heard notice given by the public crier offering a great reward to anyone who should find me, and given the particulars of my age and of the very dress I wore, I heard it said that the lad who came with me had taken me away from my father's house, a thing that cut me to the heart, showing how low my good name had fallen, since it was not enough that I should lose my flight, but they must add with whom I had fled, and that one so much beneath me, so unworthy of my consideration. The instant I heard the notice, I quitted the city with my servant, who now began to show signs of wavering in his fidelity to me. And the same night, for fear of discovery, we entered the most thickly wooded part of the mountains. But, as is commonly said, one evil calls up another, and the end of one misfortune is apt to be the beginning of one still greater. And so it proved in my case, for my worthy servant, until then so faithful and trusty, when he found me in this lonely spot, moved more by his own villainy than by my beauty, sought to take advantage of the opportunity which these solitudes seemed to present him, and with little shame, less fear of God and respect for me, he began to make overtures to me, and finding that I replied to the effrontery of his proposals with justly severe language, he laid aside the entreaties with which he had employed at first, and began to use violence. But just heaven, that seldom fails to watch over and aid good intentions, so aided mine. With my slight strength and with little exertion, I pushed him over a precipice, where I left him. Whether dead or alive, I know not. And then, with greater speed than seemed possible in my terror and fatigue. This absolutely is a romantasy. This whole, tiny section is a whole romantasy novel in itself. Or general romantic web novel, exactly. And then, with greater speed than seemed possible in my terror and fatigue, I made my way into the mountains without any thought or purpose, save than that of hiding myself among them, and escaping my father and those dispatched in search of me by his orders. It is now, I know not how many months since, with this object I came here, where I met who engaged me as his servant at a place in the heart of the Sierra. And all this time I have been serving him as herd, striving to keep always afield to hide these locks, which have now unexpectedly betrayed me. But all my care and pains were unavailing, for my master made me the discovery that I was not a man, and harboured the same base designs as my servant. And as fortune does not always supply a remedy in case of difficulty, I had no precipice or ravine at hand to which to fling the master and cure his passion, as I had in the servant's case. I thought it a lesser evil to leave him and again conceal myself among the crags, than make trial of my strength and argument and augment him. So, as I say once more, I went into hiding to seek some place where I might, with sighs and tears, implore heaven to have pity on my misery, and grant me help and strength to escape from it, or let me die among the solitudes, leaving no trace of an unhappy being who, by no fault of hers, has furnished matter for talk and scandal at home and abroad. Damn! Her story is actually really sad. She just did her best. Admittedly, she did not have to go looking for Don Fernando. She probably should have taken it as a blessing that he wasn't interested in her anymore. But again, I think this is ye old sensibilities, and her honor is tarnished by that or something along those lines. Chapter 29, which treats of the droll device and method adopted to extricate our love-stricken knight from the severe penance he had imposed upon himself. Meanwhile, with Don Quixote. Maybe. Is she gonna pretend Dulcina. Is she gonna pretend to be our Dulcina? Such, sirs, is the true story of my sad adventure. Judge for yourselves now whether the sighs and lamentations you heard and the tears that flowed from my eyes had not sufficient cause, even if I had indulged in them more freely. If you consider the nature of my misfortunes, you will see that consolation is idle, as there is no possible remedy for it. All I ask of you is what you may easily, reasonably do, to show me where I may pass my life unharassed by fear and dread of discovery by those who are in search of me. For although the great love of my parents bear me makes me feel sure of being kindly received by them, so great is my feeling of shame that the mere thought that I cannot present myself before them as they expect, that I had rather banish myself from their sight for ever than look at them in the face with the reflection that they beheld minds stripped of that purity they had a right to expect in me. With these words she became silent, and the colour that was overspread her feature slowly showed plainly the pain and shame she was suffering at heart. In theirs the listeners felt as much pity as wonder at her misfortune, but the curate was just about to offer her some consolation and advice. Cardinal forestalled him by saying, "So then, Senora, you are the fair Dorothea, the only daughter of the rich Condado?" Dorothea was astonished at hearing her father's name, and at the miserable appearance of him who mentioned it, for it has been already said how wretchedly clad Cardinal was. So she said to him, "And who may you be, brother, who seem to know my father's name so well? For so fair, if I remember rightly, I have not mentioned it in the whole story of my misfortune." "I am that unhappy being, Senora," replied Cardinal, "whom, as you have said, Lucinda declared to be her husband. I am the unfortunate Cardinal, whom the wrongdoing of him who has brought you to your present condition has reduced to the state you see me in, bare, ragged, bereft of all human comfort, and what is worse of reason, for I only possess it when heaven is pleased for some short space to restore it to me. I, Dorothea, am he who witnessed the wrong done by Don Fernando, and waited to hear the yes uttered by which Lucinda owned herself his betrothed. I am he who had not courage enough to see how her fainting fit ended, or what came of the paper that was found in her bosom, because my heart had not the fortitude to endure so many strokes of ill fortune at once. And so, losing patience, I quitted the house, and leaving a letter with my host, which I entered him to place in Lucinda's hands, I betook myself to these solitudes, reserved to end here the life I hated, as if it were my mortal enemy. But fate would not rid me of it, consenting itself with robbing me of my reason, perhaps to preserve me for the good fortune I have had in meeting you. For if that which you have just told us be true, as I believe it to be, it may be that heaven has yet in store for both of us a happier termination of our misfortunes than we look for, because seeing that Lucinda cannot marry Don Fernando, being mine, as she herself so openly declared, and that Don Fernando cannot marry her as he is yours, we may reasonably hope that heaven will restore us to what is ours. I don't think heaven should restore this one! Yes, Lucinda, you can take your pathetic man, but Dorothea deserves better than Don Fernando. She deserves better. as it is still in existence and not yet alienated or destroyed, and as we have this consolidation springing from no very visionary hope or wild fancy, I entreat you, Signora, to form new resolutions in your better mind, as I mean to do in mine, preparing yourself to look forward to happier fortunes, for I swear to you by the faith of a gentleman and a Christian, not to desert till I see you in the possession of Don Fernando. Boo! No, Don Fernando deserves to die alone! And if I cannot by words induce him to recognize his obligation to you, in that case to avail myself of right which my rank as a gentleman gives me, and with just cause challenge him on account of the injury he has done to you, not regarding my own wrongs, which I shall leave to heaven to avenge, while I on earth devote myself to yours. Cardinal's words completed the astonishment of Dorothea, and not knowing how to return thanks for such an offer, she attempted to kiss his feet, but Cardinal would not permit it, and the licentiate replied for both, commented the sound reasoning of Cardinal, and lastly begged, advised, and urged them to come with him to his village, where they might furnish themselves with what they needed, and take measure to discover Don Fernando, or restore Dorothea to her parents, or do what seemed to them most advisable. Cardinal and Dorothea thanked him and accepted the kind offer he made them, and the barber, who had been listening to all attentively in the silence on his part some kindly words also. And with no less good will than the curate offered his services in any way that might be of use to them, he also explained to them in a few words the object that had brought them there, and the strange nature of Don Quixote's madness, and how they were waiting for his squire, who had gone in search of him. Like the recollection of a dream, the quarrel he had with Don Quixote came back to Cardinal's memory, and he described it to the others, but he was unable to say what the dispute was about. The dispute was about the fact that he could not keep in his autism when you mentioned knights. You triggered his autism. I'm sorry. Oh no! Look at this old man. He's curled up on a rock. Don Quixote is such a cryptid. Cryptid in the woods. At this moment they heard a shout and recognized it as coming from Sancho Panza, who, not finding them where he had left them, was calling out to them. They went to meet him, and in answer to their inquiries about Don Quixote, he told them how he had found him stripped to his shirt, lank, yellow, half dead with hunger, and sighing for his lady Dulcinea. And although he had told him that she commanded him to quit that place and come to El Toboso, where she was expecting him, he had answered that he was determined not to appear in the presence of her beauty until he had done deeds to make him worthy of her favour. And if this went on, Sancho said, he ran the risk of not becoming an emperor, as in duty bound, or even an archbishop, which was the least he could be. I love Sancho's Delulu. It's a whole different flavour of Delulu, but just as fucking stupid. At this rate, he's not going to be an emperor. Of course he's not, Don. Of course he's not Sancho. Emperor Quixote. For which reason they ought to consider what was to be done to get him away from there. The licentiate in reply told him not to be uneasy, for they would fetch him away in spite of himself. He then told Cardinal and Dorothea what they had proposed to do to cure Don Quixote, or at any rate take him home, upon which Dorothea said that she could play the distressed damsel better than the barber, especially as she had there the dress in which to do to the life, and that they might trust to her acting the part in every particular requisite for carrying out their scheme, for she had read a great many books of chivalry, and knew exactly the style in which afflicted damsels begged boons of knight-errants. I knew it. I knew Dorothy was going to come in clutch. In that case, said the curate, there is nothing more required than to set about at once, for beyond doubt fortune is declaring itself in our favour, since it has so unexpectedly begun to open a door for your relief, and smoothed the way for us to our object. Dorothea then took out of her pillowcase a complete petticoat of some rich stuff, and a green mantle of some other fine material, a necklace and other ornaments out of a little box, and with these, in an instant, she so arrayed herself that she looked like a great and rich lady. All this and more, said she had taken from home in case of need, but that, until she had no occasion to make use of it, they were all highly delighted with her grace, air, and beauty, and declared Don Fernando to be a man of very little taste when he rejected such charms. But the one who admired her the most was Sancho Panza, for it seemed to him, what was indeed true, that in all the days of his life he had never seen such a lovely creature, and he asked the curate with great eagerness who this beautiful lady was, and what she wanted in these out-of-the-way quarters. This fair lady, brother Sancho, replied the curate, is no less a personage than the heiress in the direct male line of a great king. Why is the curate lying? Or is the curate telling him what, like, her cover story is gonna be? And Sancho's gonna, like, believe that because Sancho's an idiot. The heiress in the direct male line of the great kingdom of Micromicon, who has come in search of your master to beg a boon of him, which is that he redress a wrong or injury that a wicked giant has done to her, and from the fame as a good knight which your master has acquired far and wide, this princess has come from Guinea to speak to him. A lot ye seeking and a lot ye find, said Sancho Panza at this, especially if my master has the good fortune to redress that injury and right that wrong, and kill that son of a bitch of a giant your worship speaks of, as kill him he will if he meets him, unless indeed he happens to be a phantom, for my master has no power against phantoms. But one thing among others I would beg you, Signor Licentiate, which is that to prevent my master from taking a fancy to being an archbishop, for that is what I'm afraid of. Your worship would recommend him to marry this princess at once, for in this way he will be disabled from taking archbishop orders, and will easily come into his empire. And I, to the end of my desires, I have been thinking over the matter carefully, and by what I can make out, I find it will not do for me that my master should become an archbishop, because I'm in no good. I am no good for the church, as I am greedy married. For me now, having, as I have, a wife and children to set about ordaining dispensions to enable me to hold a place of profit under the church would be endless work. So that, Signor, it all turns to my master marrying this lady at once. For as yet I do not know her grace, and so I cannot call her by her name. She is called Princess Miko... Google Translate, help me. Google Translate. Give me a way to see. Micomicona, says the Spanish lady of Google. Princess Micomicona, said the curate, for as far as her kingdom is Micomicon, it is clear that must be her name. That is one of my favourite tropes in the world, is royal lines having the same last name as their country. It makes me very happy. It's the best trope. There's no doubt of that, replied Sancho, for I have known many to take their name and title from the place where they were born and call themselves Pedro of Alcala, Juan of Ubera, and Diego of Valladolid. Bryony Rose Manchester. No. Bryony Rose redacted. I wouldn't mind being Queen of Manchester, though. Manchester's a pretty cool place. No, I take it back. If I'm gonna own a city, it's gonna be like a northwest city. It's gonna be Liverpool. Manchester has a lot of cooler things, but Manchester's a lot scarier. Manchester has a scarier vibe. I personally know someone who got bottled in Manchester. Got knocked over the head coming out of a Mackey's. At least it's not Birmingham. Yeah, Birmingham's not even in the running. We don't talk about Birmingham. We only talk about Birmingham when there's conventions there. There was a VTuber convention in Birmingham once. I didn't go. I know someone who did. Your Boris America? Don't only tell anyone from your America royals. I didn't know America had royals. I see. You exposed my secret agentness, so you exposed your royal lineage. This is a stream of secrets today. Yeah, there was a VTuber con in Birmingham. And it may be that over there in Guinea, Queens have the same way of taking the names of their kingdoms. So it may. I love that they're kind of like, Sancho's an idiot. Just tell him the story. It's the American equivalent of having a VTuber convention in Ohio. I don't know the stereotypes of Ohio. I'm too British to comment on whether that's a good version. But the Windsors are from Germany and Greece or Denmark. Yeah. You know, that's why their last name isn't England. At least I don't think. I don't know what the royals' last names are. Is it Charles England? I don't know. Yeah, it's Windsor, innit? Windsor is actually the last name, but as far as I'm aware, there is not a major place called New Birmingham in America. Then, yeah, it's definitely not a good place even back during the, when we were taking over America then, if we didn't name anywhere after it. I suppose that's the biggest insult. If there isn't somewhere called New something or other, or just a place in America that happens to have exactly the same name, then it's clearly not a good place.
thought his last name was 2 or 3. Charles UK. So it may, said the curate, and as for your master's marrying, I will do all of my power towards it. With which Sancho was as much pleased as the curate was amazed at his simplicity, and at seeing what a hold the absurdities of his master had taken of his fancy, for he had evidently persuaded himself that he was going to be an emperor. Oh, Sancho, you're such an idiot. I think if we do this paragraph, and then I think we'll be done. What's so special about South Wales that it's got New South Wales? I don't know. I haven't been to South Wales much. I've been to North Wales a lot. Because that's not far. It's northwest. Northwest England is close to North Wales. So we go to North Wales a lot. It's very pretty. Wales is very pretty. So it might just be like, someone was just like, Wales is pretty. Maybe they saw the Welsh Highlands. And they really liked it. All them sheep. By this time, Dorothea had seated herself upon the curate's mule, and the barber had fitted the oxtail beard to his face, and they now told Sancho to conduct them to where Don Quixote was, warning him not to say that he knew either the lycinate or the barber, as his master's becoming an emperor entirely depended on his not recognising them. Neither the curate nor Cardinal, however, thought fit to go with them. Cardinal, lest he should remind Don Quixote of the quarrel he had with him, and the curate, as there was no necessity for his presence just yet. So they allowed the others to go on before them, while they themselves followed slowly on foot. The curate did not forget to instruct Dorothea how to act, but she said they might make their minds. She said they might make their minds easy, as everything would be done exactly as the books of chivalry required and described. But how would this be? We will find out next time on Don Quixote. We'll do a little highlight. We are 20. It's taken 10 streams to get a quarter of the way through this book. We're in for a long one, guys. But that's okay. Followed slowly. Yeah. It is a cliffhanger. I look forward to how this is going to go on. It feels like, you know, in the comedy movies, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to be silly. I really look forward to the next one, I think. But that is all we had time for today. Thank you so much, Evan, for coming. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, anyone who lurked. Thank you, anyone who watches the VOD. I really appreciate you coming, and hope you've enjoyed, no matter which way you decided to enjoy. If you have not already, I'd also highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you've done that, go to Twitch. Give that one a follow too. If you've done that, go to Discord. Join that. If you've done that, consider Patreon. So for Patreon, I've decided that I'm basically going to record a full playthrough of the Wrecker game that I was playing. I've been thinking about doing a full playthrough at some point anyway. So that's what the next lot of Patreon videos are going to be for a little while. I really enjoyed that game, and I really wanted to play more, and so I thought I'd record it, and it was great. So you should consider that. I was watching the VOD stream a few days ago, where we did the poll, decided to read Don Quixote. Here we are, yeah! Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to put the King Arthur VODs up. Because, obviously, going from that to Don Quixote has been so much fun. Because we have, like, a lot of context for what Don Quixote is going through by reading that first. It's been really fun. Blasted, I had intended to complete my labours ere thy broadcast concluded.
take your time, Doppel. Like I said, if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask them in the Discord. I will respond when I can. I will be back tomorrow. We're going to continue reading The Protector, the book that I have been paid to read. Woo! She's sponsored, kinda, maybe. Commissioned. And then Tuesday, we'll be finishing La Mancha Land, so it's very exciting. I can't wait for Tuesday a little bit. I do need to grind, like, a little bit, but I have a small surprise with what I've done with my Limbus team. But that's for Tuesday! But for now, that is all I have for you. Thank you so much for coming. I've said that already. So all I have to say is, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Briny Ross with Live in the Forbidden Library. Goodbye, Brionicles. Bye-bye.